Folks, I'm here with Senator Ruben Gallego, a Democrat from Arizona and former Iraq war veteran. We're speaking right now with an emergency happening with Trump starting a potential war with Venezuela. Senator, you were in Iraq. You know the government lied to all of us about Iraq, and you know who really had to pay the price. Does this feel like Iraq 2.0 is brewing right now?
Oh yeah, it's a Rat 2.0 with a Southern flavor, like Latin American flavor, I should say. But it's the same reasons. It's not even as artful, by the way. At least like the Bush administration put together a bunch of lies and kind of built it. These guys aren't even trying. They're just straight up telling us like we're going to go to war and we're doing it to protect oil interests. And but it's going to end up being the same people that pay for it. It's going to be, working class, middle class kids that are going to go fight for big oil in Venezuela and then come back hurt, killed. And of course, at the end of the day, it's just the big CEOs that make profits from it. And we end up getting stuck with the bill.
I was in your state, Arizona, during the previous election. I saw a sign that said, Kamala Harris will send your kids to war, vote Trump Vance for peace. How's that holding up right now?
Not well for them. And by the way, that is a genuine sentiment that I hear from some of my friends that are still MAGA. And one of the things I heard from some of the guys that I served with in Iraq, that were Trump MAGA supporters, where we voted for this guy to, expose the pedophiles, Epstein, and keep us out of war. And now we're in war and we're covering for pedophiles. That is a natural sentiment among a lot of, youngish men around my age, white men, working class men, that, came out and voted for Donald Trump. And I think he's going to see Republicans are going to have a whiplash that's coming towards them come this coming November because of the president's actions right now. It's only going to get worse, by the way. This president is only going to try to take do more adventuristic fights using our military just to help himself feel better.
A lot of people who claimed they were the No New Wars crowd, they wanted America first, are suddenly really okay with this situation because they think it's one and done. We're just going to go in there, take the oil. It's going to make us rich. But can you talk about what could happen if we see American troops on the ground? Also, Venezuelan lives are not just some imaginary thing. And is anybody really going to be getting rich from this, or is it just the oil lobby and the weapons contractors?
Oil lobby weapons contractors will likely be getting rich from this. What's going to happen is when you occupy anywhere, eventually you're going to run into resistance. People that don't want to be arrested. There's a lot of men and gangs in Venezuela that have a lot of power. And as long as, we don't try to do anything, they don't try to do anything. But when we start going and start taking away their power, they're going to start shooting at our guys. And what's going to end up happening is our guys will shoot back. There will be civilians that die in the process of that. Of course, especially in war, there's, in urban combat, you'll see that happen. And it's something that doesn't have to happen by us avoiding stupid wars. But what will happen is we'll send men and women to Venezuela to protect these oil interests and then have them shot, killed, come back to this country, probably, not in a great situation, not being able to find work. I'm sure we'll end up giving a tax cut again while our men and women are at war. And then they're going to complain later when the VA needs more services, needs more support. The Republicans' excuse will be again, like, well, we can't afford it. And that's exactly what happened with the Iraq-Afghanistan war. We had men and women that returned, really hurt, needed some coverage, especially with burn pits. And the Republicans, for nearly a decade, stopped it, saying they had no money, even though these guys, try not to swear here, these guys gave a massive tax cut in the middle of the forever war.
Yeah, you're welcome to swear too, because this is absolute insanity. Another aspect of this, Trump told Iran that the U.S. is, quote, locked and loaded and ready to attack. We literally bombed them last summer. Israel also says Iran is building up their nuke program again, even though Trump said that program was totally obliterated. Does this have some type of connection to Venezuela? Because myself and other people personally believe Trump might be doing this in Venezuela to have a new supply of oil in case something happens in the Middle East.
No. You're way overthinking this. He is not that smart and he's not that deliberate. he likes the power of being able to use the military because he's basically powerless everywhere else. He likes to be able to be the big man, and he knows that he could drop bombs and potentially not get too messy. This is why you see him dropping bombs in Iran the first go around, but not really thinking about what the aftermath of that was, right? But what does that look like, right? The fact that he dropped bombs in Iran made it harder for us to actually track, their nuclear program. We were actually able to see in real time what was happening with their nuclear stock. We were able to actually keep them somewhat penned in so they wouldn't continue to grow. And now because, Donald Trump listened to that idiot Netanyahu, we ended up bombing them. And now we have zero concept or clue what's happening with their nuclear deal. Now, the other thing is, if you're Iran, why wouldn't you want a nuclear weapon at this point, considering how the United States is acting? If anything, this actually encourages you to go faster. So there was no forethought in all of this. This is just the president trying to, be and pretend he's a big man, but we all pay the consequences of that in the end. And as the political situation at home gets worse, as the economy gets worse, and his numbers get worse, he's only going to try to do more and more when it comes to military intervention to make himself feel better.
I see. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on this being Trump seeing the way Putin is expanding his influence in Europe? Xi Jinping also wants to expand China's influence with Taiwan and the rest of Asia. It doesn't just stop at Venezuela. Trump is also talking about Cuba, Colombia, Panama, Mexico, Greenland. Is MAGA seriously intent on letting Trump try to take control of the entire Western Hemisphere?
Well, I wouldn't say MAGA. I think the Republican Party is. Don't give the Republican Party any leeway here. They're just as responsible as any wing of MAGA because they're not blocking the president in his gross, power grab. And why? I mean, look how stupid this sounds. Why are we going to go after Colombia? Colombia largely been very, very supportive of us trying to fight narcos. We have disagreements with their president is crazy like our president, but he's up. June, he's done. He's done. He can't run for re-election for any reason. We have congressional elections in Colombia in March. Why are we going to go bomb a country that has a history of democracy and largely always leaning in our direction? You know why? Because this president hates that president. He's rather he would love to go to war just to prove that he's a bigger guy than that. Same with Panama. Again, another Democratic elected country. Same with Mexico, another Democratic elected country. They're not great. They could be doing better. But what message are we sending to the world when we are invading Democratic elected governments that largely support us and work with us just because this president has something to compensate for?
It seems like as soon as Trump started bombing Venezuela, the media stopped talking about Epstein. And this week was the deadline for Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice to provide reasoning as to why they redacted all of the Epstein files. Do you think that's also part of what's going on here, the way they're stepping up the Department of War all of a sudden?
Yeah, absolutely. Like this president will do and use our military for his own gain and benefit. Whether it's distract from Epstein, as I said, covering for pedophiles, or whether it's distract from the fact that the price of everything is still high, right? He ran on bringing down the cost of food, the cost of energy, the cost of everything. Nothing is going down. People are feeling it, and people are really going to feel it going into the summer, and they're going to come out of the summer voting in November to hold the Republicans accountable.
Do you think Trump wants to be a dictator? He's talking today about wanting to cancel elections because he doesn't think we should even run against the Democrats because they're so corrupt.
Yes, he wants to be a dictator, without a doubt. He has no filter. I hope people realize this. What he is saying is what he means. He does. I sincerely doubt he has inner monologue. I think what comes out of his mouth is exactly what he's thinking. And when he says, "I want to be a dictator," if given the opportunity, and the Constitution was folded, and everybody just turned around, asked him to become a dictator, he would absolutely do it without a doubt. Which is why we have to be very careful. Especially on the anniversary of January 6th, this guy did what no one thought would ever do, leading an insurrection into the halls of Congress and potentially creating, coup. Let's not be surprised if this guy would want to try to figure out a way to be a dictator.
Last question. What can you do in the Senate right now? What can Democrats do? There's got to be something more drastic because clearly Trump is not interested in listening to the Congress. Are you guys thinking about shutting down the government again if possible?
Well, right now we're trying to pass many types of measures and bills to try to pen this man in, whether to stop him from going to war, spending money to go to war, holding people accountable. That's step one. Step two, some of the ways that we actually can stop him, we need to keep the government open. We need to pass legislation that would keep him from touching money. If you shut down, regards to some of this, he has more power when it comes to military, when it comes to the military during a shutdown. So we have to be very careful and very calculated about how we do this because he does have an immense amount of power, especially when it comes to defense, versus when we shut down last time, which I was a big supporter of, he had only a certain amount of places that he could leverage the power of the executive. So we have to be very smart about how to fight this guy, how to keep him penned in, and how to run out the clock too. At least two elections, maybe we have another opportunity to have a good check and balance on it.
Got it. Senator, thank you for the time, and I'll let you get back to it.
Thanks, Ed.